My husband, Mark, has been traveling frequently for work recently, often leaving me behind for days or even weeks at a time. First, I tried to be understanding, knowing how demanding and time-consuming his career was. There were always business trips, endless meetings, and late-night calls. But as time went on, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was slowly changing between us. I started to wonder whether he still cared for me the way he once did. We've been married for 8 years, but over the last few months I began to sense that things weren't quite right. It was hard to pinpoint exactly when it all started, but our conversations grew shorter. He was physically present but emotionally distant, and his attention seemed scattered when we spoke. There were moments when I felt like a stranger in my own home, and the growing distance between us only made that feeling stronger. One evening, while aimlessly scrolling through my social media feed, I came across a touching video of a woman who surprised her husband while he was away on a business trip. She appeared at his hotel with a bouquet of flowers, and his reaction was nothing short of pure joy and love. He looked at her with such admiration and affection, as if he couldn't believe she had come all that way just for him. I couldn't help but think about how much I missed that spark between us. That little gesture seemed like a simple yet profound way to rekindle the love and romance we had once shared. It wasn't just the surprise, it was the thought behind it, the effort to show love in a way that was both unexpected and meaningful. The idea lingered in my mind for days. I started imagining how Mark would react if I did the same. What would it be like to see his face light up when he saw me standing there? A smile, a hug, a moment of rediscovery. I craved that connection again. I knew it wouldn't fix everything, but I hoped it would remind us of the bond we used to have, the one we had lost somewhere along the way. But there was one major problem. I had no idea where Mark would be staying for his next trip. So I decided to do something that, in hindsight, I regret. I went through his laptop. I thought maybe I could find a clue. My heart raced with both excitement and anxiety as I sifted through his emails. I didn't want to invade his privacy, but the growing doubt in my chest pushed me forward. I finally found an email that caught my attention. It was from someone named Business Partner, and it had a small heart symbol next to the name. My stomach dropped. I told myself it was nothing, just a colleague or a business-related email. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. So I opened it. Content of the email made my heart skip a beat. It read, "Hi Mark. I got your present. I'll wear it on our trip, winky face." The words were playful, flirtatious, and far too intimate. I could feel my pulse quicken. Who was this woman? Why was she sending such a message? I immediately checked his inbox, scanned his social media, but found nothing else that raised any immediate red flags. Till that email gnawed at me. It wasn't enough to confront him over, but it made me uneasy, as if I had stumbled upon something I wasn't supposed to know. Despite my growing unease, I decided to stick with my plan. I booked a flight, hoping that I was just overthinking things. But in the back of my mind, I couldn't help but wonder, what if I was wrong? What if my suspicions were true? What would I find when I saw him? When I arrived in the city, I went straight to the hotel where Mark was supposed to be staying. My hands were trembling, my heart pounding in my chest. I approached the reception desk and told the woman behind the counter that I was Mark's wife and wanted to surprise him. I fully expected her to smile, perhaps even help me arrange the surprise. But instead, her face drained of color. She looked at me with shock, then confusion. "I'm sorry, ma'am," she stammered. "But this man is already checked in with his wife." My world seemed to tilt, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. The words echoed in my head over and over. With his wife? I stood there frozen, completely unable to comprehend what I had just heard. I repeated myself, though my voice felt foreign, trembling. "I am his wife." The receptionist quickly realized the enormity of her mistake, and her face flushed with discomfort. She apologized profusely, refusing to give me any further details. But the damage was done. My mind was racing with 100 questions. Who was this other wife? Why was Mark lying to me? Desperate for answers, I insisted that she provide me with his room number. I showed her proof of our marriage, praying that she would relent. With a tense sigh, she finally gave me the information, and I headed up to his room, my heart heavy with fear and uncertainty. When I reached his door, I knocked. Mark answered, his face paling as soon as he saw me. Behind him, I caught a glimpse of a woman sitting on the bed. Her face mirrored Mark's in shock, quickly shifting to panic as she saw me standing there. Truth became clear in an instant. The woman wasn't just a mistress, she was his second wife. The realization hit me like a freight train. Mark had been leading a double life. For 3 years, he had been married to her while still pretending to be the loving husband to me. The signs had been there all along, but I had either ignored or brushed them off. The constant business trips, the emotional distance, the little things that seemed off but never quite added up. Mark hadn't just been unfaithful. He had been living 2 separate lives, each with its own set of lies. He had a whole other life with her, another home, a shared apartment in a different city, and even a dog. A dog that I had never known about. That night, I packed my things and left. The betrayal was so deep that I couldn't look at him. I felt physically sick, and I knew in my heart that there was no way I could ever return to the life we had once shared. I returned home, and within hours, I began the painful process of planning for a divorce. It was the hardest decision I've ever had to make, but I realized that I couldn't stay in a marriage built on lies. After 8 years of marriage, discovering that the man who had always taken care of me, showered me with affection, and made me feel special was living a lie was a shock I could never have prepared for. My world came crashing down around me. Honestly, part of me wonders if I would have been better off never checking his emails, never stumbling upon that one message. But deep down, I know that the truth had to come out. I feel guilty. I feel stupid. How could I have been so naive? How could I have been so blind to all the signs, allowing him to deceive me so completely? What do I do now? I never imagined a day would come when I'd have to live without Mark, but here I am, trying to figure out how to move forward.